Hey everybody, it's Aaron at Warmoth, and for the last couple of days we have been building a double neck guitar. Now on part 2 we ended just as I had loaded up the pickguard, and I had a lot of people concerned that I hadn't put copper foil on the underside of the pickguard yet. Well, I did that. I don't show it in the video, but I did that, so you can all rest easy. But anyway, let's pick it up right from there with soldering everything together. Okay, so today we are going to wire up the pickguard, and the first thing I realized when I started doing this is that this pickup, because it's a double neck, this has a long way to go to get to the controls, and so I had to extend the wires here a little bit. But other than that, I think it should be pretty straightforward. So let's wire this thing up and see if we can get it to work. Alright, so I've got this part wired up now. I wasn't able to do it exactly the way I originally wanted. I tried a bunch of different things and concluded that it is not possible with a standard 5-way switch. And the tricky part was getting this to stay out of that second position. The 5-way switch isn't made to do that. Okay, so now we're going back to the body. Before I can put the pickguard on, I've got to put the jack on, and then I've got to put the bridges on, because all of those things are going to have wiring that's going to come into the cavity and need to be soldered to the pickguard. So let's put those on now. And as usual, I like to use a piece of tape. Where I'm going to drill my holes. And then kind of position that in there. And one important thing I learned a long time ago is that before I drill my holes, I always get a cord and actually plug the cord in and make sure that it can freely plug and unplug. And it looks like it can just fine. So that is probably where I want it. In the past, I've accidentally put this like too close to one end or the other or something, and there wasn't clearance in the mechanism in there to put the plug in, and so I always check it. Okay, soldering up the grounding wires from the bridges and then the lead from the input jack or excuse me, output jack. And then we'll be able to put the pickguard on. All right, time to put this pickguard into place. Today I'm going to attach the necks, and you can see that I have the pickguard just taped in place right now. That's because I have a super switch on order because I want to be able to wire this thing up correctly, and once that arrives I will pop this back off, wire that up correctly, and then attach the pickguard permanently. But until then, just tape. But let's go ahead and attach these necks. 12-string neck first. And I always like to use a neck plate pad. I just think it gives it a nice finished look. And you can't see this because it's out of the frame, but of course I'm using some wax on my screw so that it will be easy to drive. So I've never done two necks before. This is a little bit of a balancing act. All right, that looks more or less like a double neck. I may have to loosen those necks up or even take them off again, just to get everything settled right. But for now, it's just going to sit for a couple days until that switch gets here. So I will see you then. So now that I've put the necks on and checked everything for initial fit, I've taken the 12-string neck back off. And the reason why is because it is modern construction neck. The 6-string neck is a vintage modern, which means it has the truss adjustment up here. But this modern neck has the truss adjustment at the heel, and then the side adjust mechanism here. So because this is at the heel, I want to make the initial adjustment before I attach it. And you do that with a straight edge. So I'm going to lay the straight edge down across the frets. And let me put my reading glasses on. And I'm going to check to see how level that neck is. And I can see that there is a little bit of relief in the neck. I'm seeing light come through here. So I am going to adjust this neck until the fretboard is perfectly flat. So I will just keep making little adjustments and checking until that fretboard is perfectly flat. And that already is pretty close. Warmoth necks come from the shop with the side adjust mechanism kind of within the middle of its operating range, so I just leave that the way it is, and I just adjust with the main truss rod nut here until the neck is flat. Once this is on the guitar, then I can use that side adjustment mechanism to make any further changes I need. And on this neck, I think we are there. Yep, I'm going to call that good. So let's put the neck back on. There's a little trick that I've learned for putting necks back on. And that is as you start to re-drive those screws, there's already a channel cut in the wood there, and you don't want to cut another channel, and you don't want to cut a new channel every time you take the neck off, because eventually then you're going to wear it out. So what I like to do is spin the screw backwards, and you'll feel it drop into the threads that you've already cut. It's kind of the same It's kind of the same principle as screwing the lid onto a mayonnaise jar. And we all kind of do this instinctively. You turn the lid backwards until you feel it drop into the threads, and then you go forward and twist the lid on. It's the same principle here. You're going to spin it backwards, and you'll feel it drop into the threads. Sometimes you'll even hear it. Let's see if I can hear it on one of these. I don't know if you heard that. I'm not really hearing it very loud on any of these. There, did you hear that? As soon as it drops down into those threads, then you can start spinning it forward. All right, so let's spin this thing back around. I still got the tape. I have, actually I've received that super switch and I've installed it and everything is working right now. But now that I have the neck back on, and now that the pickguard is back in place, I need to do one critical check. Before I string this thing up, I want to test and make sure that my wiring is correct. Because if I later find out that it isn't, I'm going to have to pull the pickguard back off. And to pull the pickguard back off, I got to pull the strings off. And this bad boy has 18 strings. And I don't want to pull 18 strings off. So the way to check to make sure that the wiring is all good before you string the thing up is to plug it in. You can see I've got it plugged into an amp here with just a little bit of gain going because that makes this easier to do. And you use an Allen wrench. Can't really see it there. There. You use a little Allen wrench and you just lightly touch the pole pieces and you can hear what's going on. So the way I have this wired with the super switch that I installed is that position 1 should be the full humbucker. So I touch both pole pieces. Nothing else is in the circuit. Position 2 will be the humbucker tapped. So this will be cut out and this will stay in the circuit. So here's position 1, position 2. You can hear, I don't know if you can hear a little bit of hum because now it's a single coil, but that coil goes away. Ah, my hands are blocking everything I'm doing. Let's do it this way. So here's position 1. Here's position 2. You can hear that goes away, but this is still there, and this is not in the circuit in position 2. Position 3, this goes away entirely, and that's in. Position 4 should be both of these. Position 5 should be just that. Perfect. So going back to position 1 now, full humbucker, and we can chest the volume knob. So that's working, and now we test the tone. So I can feel pretty confident that my wiring is all working correctly now. So the next step is to put the strings on. I'm going to leave the tape here and put the strings on first just to make sure there's no alignment issues with the pickguard. So let's put the strings on. I've now installed the outside strings on both necks just to check alignment with the pickups and make sure there were no problems. And everything's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for the pickguard. All right, I am going to call this done. There's still a lot to do. I've got to finish putting the strings on, got to put a string tree on, gonna give it a setup and kind of clean the whole thing up and get it ready for its first notes. A couple of things. One, there was a lot of stuff that I did that I didn't show you. I didn't show you soldering up the super switch. I also put more copper foil on the underside of the pickguard. Bunch of other things. There's too much to show in a short video. And every one of those things could be its own video at some point in the future. Hopefully I will get to that at some point. The other thing is I realized I made a mistake, or not really a mistake, but like a misjudgment. If I had it to do over again, I would make the 6-string neck a right-hand reverse so that the tuners were on this side. Because as I went to tune this thing up, I discovered there's no way to get a string winder in there for all 6 of these strings and all 6 of those strings. So that is going to be a joy to restring every time I go to do it for the rest of forever. If you get the 6-string neck tuners on this side, it's still not going to give you a lot of clearance for these 6, but at least it'll give you clearance for these and these. So there's a piece of advice that you can take to heart. If you ever build a double neck, I definitely recommend right-hand reverse. Also want to give a big shout out to unofficialwarmoth.com, and in particular Mayfly and Stratomania, who both helped me quite a bit with the wiring for the 5-way super switch. I didn't show it in the video, but I went through a standard 5-way switch, I went through a super switch that was defective, and then I finally got a super switch that worked properly, and those guys helped me through that whole thing. So again, big props to those guys. And if you have questions about wiring or guitar building of any kind, I definitely recommend that you check out unofficialwarmoth.com. Also, make sure you go to warmoth.com if you have any questions about any of these parts or anything else, or give our service reps a call. They are the real experts when it comes to all of our parts and compatibility and stuff. And that's it. Tune into the next video where I will have this thing all strung up and we will hear what it sounds like. Until then, keep on picking.